So to those people who are new to my channel, you're probably not aware of my history in creating generated environments, so I'm going to show you how that has progressed over the years, and I want to show you my latest design for custom dungeons. And this is what it looks like from underneath, but I have a bit of a problem is where every room is quite similar to one another. There we go, it's generating something, the rooms are different.
Just save those tears.
A nice field of boulders. There we go. As you can see, there are multiple entrances to get inside. There are 3 main floors, and you can get between floors without having to exit the temple sometimes. Is place down the bat egg, and it will start generating a house for you. And if you want this to be 2 stories, which I'm going to do, then you can place it wherever you like in the house, and it will generate another story for you. So let's take a look at what this thing generated. Awesome, I think that looks pretty cool. Now, thanks to the addition of structure blocks, things have changed. Rooms can be far more randomized, and so can structure. So what I'm going to teach you today is the simplest way of making a dungeon. It's not the best, and it's not the most random, but it will come up with a bunch of random outcomes for you, which is enough to keep the player engaged, and you also get a lot of design control over what you're doing, and it's less prone to bugs. So what have I actually done here? Well, I've got a dungeon here, so I'm going to just load this, and as you can see, we get a slightly different dungeon with different rooms here. Plays out quite differently. Now, if I want a completely different floor plan, I can just add a 2 onto here, and then you can see that this dungeon has a very different feel. As you can see, this one can actually go upstairs, which is another feature which is very easy to implement with this method here. Command blocks here are very, very lightweight. I mean, the method that I'm using for the Tempest box is far more complicated, but it is based on this principle, and that's what I'm trying to teach today. So if we go over here, you can see exactly what the dungeons are made up of. So I've got our first dungeon here with the floor plan. As you can see, all the rooms are empty, and I have an armor stand for every place I want a room to be added. Now over here, I have a slightly different floor plan, which will create a different feel. The rooms that can go inside are selected from these 9 rooms right here. That's the basic principle. So basically this armor stand will choose a random room here, this armor stand will choose a random room here, and this armor stand will choose a random room here. So if you can't remember how to use structure blocks, then you can just give yourself a structure block like so, and then what you can do is you can turn it to save mode, pick whatever position you want. So let's just say you want a really, really tiny structure here. You give your structure a name, and so we can just click done here. We can build whatever the heck we want inside here, doesn't matter. We click save, and structure saved as name, and if you want to load it again, then you just go into load mode, change the relative position to whatever you want. So let's just call this name again, include the entities, whatever. And then what you can do here is you can just place a redstone block on top, and it will load that structure in like so. Now you will also notice that this can take into account walls. So if I go up to here, and you can see how the rooms are divided, and I load in a room 1 like this, as you can see, it's actually maintained the walls here. That's because I'm using structure voids here, even though it looks like there's air blocks, there are not. So to get those, you just give yourself a structure void, and this basically maintains any existing blocks in the area. And this is why there's air blocks in the side here, so if the structure block appears here, then it gets replaced by an air block. You can see these invisible blocks when you're on save mode. You can turn those on, and you can see that the red blocks are representing structure voids, and the blue ones represent air blocks, but we're going to turn that off because that actually causes quite a significant amount of lag. So since I have entities representing the floor plan here, we can actually use those entities to import the rooms here, and basically the way this is done is I've got 2 repeating command blocks here and a bunch of randomizing armor stands here. I actually use scoreboards to randomize it, but armor stands are easier to teach and more intuitive for beginners, and that's the purpose of this tutorial. So basically, if there is a thing called dungeon within 52 blocks, so anything over there called dungeon, then it will execute from a random armor stand. You actually have to specify the type, otherwise @R doesn't work. So a random armor stand named Randomize, and it's basically going to activate the command block below it and then immediately set it back to needs redstone. So let's say it detects a dungeon here. Then what this command block is going to say, it's going to say, okay, activate this, and then this command block will say, no, deactivate it, but it's already activated. So we go in here, and the dungeon basically sets a structure block set to load mode, and it's going to be called room 4. Then we go through all these empty command blocks, and then it sets a redstone block on top of that dungeon. I'm using C=1 for each of these, so it always targets the nearest room, and then finally it just kills it just like that. So it's a very, very simple system, and hopefully we'll be able to see that in action if I would just see it quick enough. So you can see what's going on here. It's just picking the closest room, randomizing the room, picking the next closest room, randomizing that, the next closest room, and randomizing that. I hope that makes sense, and now I'm going to show you an example of this on a large scale, and I'm going to talk about the differences in the Tempest box things. So yes, this structure that I'm building actually is coming to the Tempest box, and we will see that soon. Okay, so this is an example of a dungeon that I have made with the help of my Tempest box contributors, who have also built some of the structures here. So as you can see, it's got the random room concept. The floor plan is a lot more complicated. Let's just go down in here. Everything joins up quite nicely. Okay, so we got this room over here, which is interesting. Now, there are a few things that I haven't mentioned, is that I've actually split this into different kinds of room sizes. So you can get 11 by 11 rooms, 7 by 7 rooms, 9 by 9, and 15 by 15 rooms. And they can spawn only in those dedicated areas. So I have a lot of design control over what kind of rooms I want to spawn, how rare they can be, those kinds of things. And also the walls are being spawned in randomly to change the shape of the dungeon every single time. So this dungeon, even though it might have different rooms, will also have a completely different shape for you to explore. And then every time you go into one of these dungeons, it's not like you've explored one of these before, it feels very different. Also, it also helps that there are 80 different rooms that can be chosen from. So 80 different rooms means there are a ton of potential for exploring, especially if you mess around with the rarity of some of these rooms as well. And as you can see, it can support stairs and such, and this all fits into a 64 by 64 by 32 structure, which I kind of cheated in to load, but hey, that's the point of command blocks, is that you're using cheats. Let's go through here, and as you can see, I have forgotten to save structure 10b, which I need to do sometime. So yeah, you can actually see there's a lot of stuff going on here, and not only that, but you can randomize the decorations in here as well. But anyway, I'm spoiling a lot of Tempest box stuff here, so I'm just going to end the episode here. Thank you all to my patrons and my gold patrons, Data Crusader and Dark7. Thank you very much, guys. I will see you all in the next one. Take care.